Sweet Science Sports.
It's the sweet one.
Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. This is your boy, your man, BJ Aloysius, Sweet Science Sports and McDojos, the sweetest sports channel of them all. And today on December 25th, I want to talk about the 5 most inspirational stories. Not only the 5 most inspirational stories, but the 5 most inspirational boxing stories in history. All right, the top 5. And I know today people is chilling with their families, having a good time, having a good feeling and stuff with this season and stuff. And I just want to give a feel good video of people overcoming travesties, overcoming obstacles in their life, and still being successful and everything. So I'm going to read you this article. We're going to talk about it. So let's continue on. All right. The number 5 most inspirational boxing story is from Vinny Paz. I can't really pronounce his full last name, but it's Vinny Pazienna. Alright, so Vinny Paz was a 5-time world champion in an era that included such names as Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, Ray Boom Boom Mancini, and Hector Macho Camacho. This despite a car crash in 1991 that doctors said will permanently disable him from ever walking again. The car which Paz was a passenger in crashed so badly that he had to be cut from the wreckage in order to get to the hospital. In the process, he cracked several vertebrae and actually had to be fitted with a metal halo, which was screwed into his skull to keep his head and neck stable. Wow, that's truly horrible. Sounds real painful. Yeah, let's continue on. However, Paz was able to walk soon after the surgery, and at the age of 30, nearly a year after a supposedly paralyzing accident, Paz returned to the ring in December of 1992 to fight again. All right. A year after that fight, he defeated Dan Sherry by way of knockout to win the IBO Super Middleweight title. Alright, if that's not a inspirational story, there's nothing else inspirational. You understand? This man, this warrior, this gladiator, you know what I'm saying, who came up in the times of the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, people like that. He came up during this time. And he got in a car accident so bad that he was not supposed to walk again. But he had so much heart, so much determination, and so much grit that he overcame it. Now remember, he was in a car crash in 1991. But by December of 1992, he fought again. Very inspirational. And not only that, in 1993, he won the IBO Super Middleweight title. Amazing. 1991 was in a car crash where he was not supposed to walk again. 93, he is the IBO Super Middleweight champion. All right, if that's not inspiration for you, something wrong with your heart, dog. Something wrong with your heart. All right, now let's go to number 4. Now number 4, I never thought that they would have on here. I know who this boxer is, and I got love for him, and it is Lamont Peterson. Alright, so let's go into his story, his inspirational story. Alright, despite the promise of brutality that permeates throughout the squared circle, for many fighters, entrance to this realm provides the possibility of solace and pending finality. Alright, it would seem that for a junior welterweight title holder, Lamont Peterson, who was thrust into homelessness at the age of 10 in Washington, D.C., this might be the case. And if anybody know about Washington D.C., and I'm not talking about the D.C. with the marble, I'm talking about everything that's outside of that. Y'all know that is a very, very, very rough place. especially for a 10-year-old. All right, let's continue on, people. In a family in which he was one of 12 children, his father was put in prison for a drug offense, and his mother abandoned the family shortly thereafter. The children all split up, and Lamont and his younger brother Anthony were forced into a life with no mother, father, siblings, or home. Again, that is a travesty that happens. I'm sorry to say that it happens a lot in the black community, but I know it happens in a lot of different communities, so I don't want to make this a race thing, but this happens in a lot of different communities. All right, you have a lot of children, something goes on with the parents, and then they go into the system and they all get separated, you know, and sometimes it leads to a life of crime, sometimes it don't, but that's rough for children, you know. Let's continue on with the story. It's an inspirational story of Lamont Peterson. It wasn't until several months after the abandonment that Lamont and Anthony were discovered by trainer Barry Hunter, who took an interest in Lamont's boxing skills and took the boys in, giving them a home. Hunter remains the trainer for the IBF junior welterweight champion, who despite a recent positive drug test for synthetic testosterone will enter the ring on February 22nd in his hometown of Washington, D.C. to take on Kendall Holt. Alright, and now before I continue on, I just want to let y'all know that this article came out in 2013, January 26, 2013. It was written by Sean Leahy, whatever his name. Okay, so this article was made 7 years ago. So let me go back down for y'all. So yeah, Lamont Peterson. You know, boxing get a lot of people out of the situation that they're in. If you look at Bernard Hopkins, who was in jail and stuff, which is another inspirational story we can talk about. You can look at Terrence Crawford got shot in the head, you know what I'm saying, right before he was blown up, and there's a lot of things that people went through, you know what I'm saying, and they overcame, you know what I'm saying, and a good thing that Lamont Peterson was found by Barry Hunter, him and his brother, so they can be taken off the streets and out of the poverty they was in, and so they can pursue a career and make money and finances for their family and everything. So let's go on to boxer number 3, the third inspirational story for this day of December 25th, which I know this is the day where everybody loves good things and good stories and good happenings and everything. So BG Aloysius is here to give it to all you sweet scientists out there today. Alright, so number 3 is Dewey Bozzella. Alright, Dewey Bozzella. An analysis of a boxing career that ended with a 1-0 lifetime record might be perceived as a reflection of a severely unfinished story. But in the case of Dewey Bozzella, that one win was the culmination of a comeback from a lifetime of undue imprisonment, which a lot of people do endure unjust imprisonment. All right, but Bozzella was convicted in 1977. All right, I am 42 years old right now. All right. So I was born in 1978. He was in jail a year before I was born. All right. Bozzella was convicted in 1977 for the murder of 92-year-old Emma Casper and I'm gonna mess this up, and it's in New York. It's Poughkeepsie, New York, and was sentenced 20 years to life in Sing Sing prison. Wow. Alright, so after have been in prison for 26 years, and after numerous attempts to have his case re-examined, Bozzella, with the help of the law firm Wilmer Hale, was able to obtain the evidence that was able to obtain the evidence that proved his innocence. He was released in October of 2009. And when I think of 2009, now if I can remember correctly, in 2009 I was in my late 20s or early 30s. You know, so you talking about this dude was in jail a year before I was born until I was about in my late 20s, early 30s, dog. For real. That is crazy. Alright, let's continue on. While in Sing Sing, Borzella boxed regularly and was the prison's light heavyweight champion. Upon being released at the age of 52, he began his quest to fight professionally. After going through several setbacks in trying to obtain his license, Borzella remained determined, a characteristic which had guided his attempt to prove his innocence and became a free man once again. He eventually got his license and fought in his first and only professional fight, defeating Larry Hopkins, not Bernard, alright, but Larry Hopkins on October 15th, listen, 2011, undercard of Bernard Hopkins versus Chad Dawson, alright. Today he runs the Dewey Borzella Foundation, which provides mentoring and training opportunities to at-risk youth. Awesome story. This is a man who had his whole career taken away from him from something that he did not do at all. If anybody know where I'm from, it's the same North Carolina. It was a guy named Daryl Hunt that was wrongly convicted for the murder of this lady, and he was down for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And he got out like years and years later, man. But a lot of people go through this, man. But he came back out. You know what I'm saying? He did his boxing thing while he's in jail. He was a champion and everything. He came back out, got his one match, won that. He got his foundation, man, and at least he's out now. He got at least at age 52. He had his match in 2011. That's some years ago, so he probably in his 60s now. But this is a great inspirational story. I have all understanding of Dewey Borzella and of his plight, and it's a messed up thing. We give y'all props for coming back out, doing your thing, and living your dream, even if it's just one more match. You understand? All right, so let's go to the number 2 most inspirational boxing story. And this boxer is Billy Misk. All right, Billy Misk. William Arthur Misk, aka the St. Paul Thunderbolt, started his career as a middleweight in 1913 during what would later come to be called the no decision era, eventually fighting a light heavyweight and heavyweight for the remainder of his career. In 1918, Misk was given the inconceivable news by his doctor that he had Bright's disease, a kidney-related ailment, and that he had 5 years to live if he was lucky. Wow, that got to be hard to hear. You have a Bright's disease, a kidney ailment, and you have 5 years to live if you are lucky. Wow, that got to be hard to hear, man. Got to be hard to hear. All right, let's continue on. In a sport where a punch to the kidneys can end a boxer's night, Misk was given the life-ending equivalent by his doctor. Yet, not only did Misk keep the news from his family, only telling his manager, but he continued to box, most notably losing to Jack Dempsey in a third-round knockout in 1920. Despite the loss to Dempsey, Misk continued to fight and win for the most part, going 19-1-1 from 1921 to 1922, but by 1923 his health was failing and his chances were fading. In November 1923, struggling financially and with a strong desire to give his wife and 3 kids one last memorable Christmas together, Misk convinced his manager Jack Reddy to get him a fight. His opponent was Bill Brennan, whom he knocked out, taking a $2,400 payday in the process, which he used to make his last Christmas with his family unforgettable. He went on to die New Year's Day, 1924. Oh man, this one right here is inspirational, but it's also sad. But it also shows you what a devoted and loving father and husband and man would do just so they can have their family can have a great last remembrance of them. This dude took a fight knowing he should not have had to, won it, and spent the last Christmas with his family, and ended up dying that same, just a week later, probably on New Year's Day, 1924. Sad, man, but inspirational, but it's very sad. All right, now let's go to the number one most inspirational story in boxing, which is one of my favorite boxers. Daniel the Miracle Man Jacobs is number one. All right, is number one. All right, let's go ahead and get into this article and read about the Miracle Man, Danny Jacobs. All right. When middleweight prospect Danny Jacobs initially saw a doctor in May 2011 because he was experiencing concerning pains in his legs, he came away believing the cause to be a pinched nerve. However, in the weeks following that visit, the problem worsened to the point that Jacobs was wheelchair bound from the inability to use his legs. Upon a second doctor's visit, he was told that he had a form of spinal cancer called, and excuse me if I messed this up, I'm going to try my best to say it, it's osteosarcoma, and he had waited even a few more days for a diagnosis. And had he waited even a few more days for a diagnosis, he could have died. Wow. Just imagine we wouldn't have had Danny Jacobs now. You know, a two-time champion, Danny Jacobs. You know what I'm saying? But Jacobs was able to undergo successful surgery to have the cancer removed. But despite this, was informed that his ability to walk normally was in doubt, much less returning to the sport that had been his life's desire. Which is hard to hear for somebody to hear when it's like when I knew I couldn't play basketball no more, you know, or that I couldn't really, I really couldn't do all that fancy kicking and stuff I used to do in taekwondo back when I was younger before all my injuries started. Taking a little bit more hold and stuff, but anyway, let's get on. This is about the Danny Man, you know what I'm saying, and these other four inspirational people, you know what I'm saying. But let's continue on with the dual inspiration of being told that he wouldn't be able to fight again, as well as the innate responsibility to provide for his family. Jacobs, rigorously rehabilitated in less than 6 months after the diagnosis, walked up the stairs through the ropes of the ring at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn to face Justin Lutheran. Lutheran was a standing opponent for all of 1 minute 13 seconds of the first round when Jacobs ended the night with a knockout win. He has won both of his fights since returning from what was seen as potentially paralyzing cancer, and intends to continue keeping busy with another fight in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center on February 9th against Billy Lyell. So as we know, since then, Danny Jacobs had picked up the title. He has fought the likes of Triple G, Canelo. He's over at the Zone and he's doing his thing. I know a lot of people give him a lot of slack for his last fight and everything, but hey man, Danny Jacobs had a career-ending cancer where he couldn't even walk, and he wasn't supposed to walk regularly again. He's a two-time world champion. He's one of the top middleweights. What more can you say? It's the Miracle Man. Look at the name. So I hope that all you sweet scientists today enjoyed this inspirational broadcast today that I brought forth to you on this day of December 25th, hoping that it warms your hearts, that it played those sweet violin sounds, that it plucked your heartstrings, that it also give you inspiration to overcome anything that you've going through or going through right now. And you also can be your story just like these five guys. And it doesn't have to be in boxing, it doesn't have to be nothing like that, but it can be what you are good in and what you love in your life. Alright, so this is your man BG Aloysius. I hope you have a wonderful day. This is Sweet Science Sports at McDojos, the sweetest sports channel of them all. And y'all just keep doing one thing for me, and that's just to keep banging. peace. Until next time.
Ding ding, motherfuckers.